Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Things First. I've been calling it Wednesday all week. I can officially say today is indeed Wednesday. I am Jenna Wolfe. That is the Hall of Famer, Cris Carter. This right here is Nick Wright.
You guys look nice this morning.
Thank you. So do you, good sir. We have a great show for you today. There is some finger-pointing going on in New England after that shoddy offensive performance on Sunday.
Yep,
Aaron Rodgers might be without his biggest weapon against the Cowboys this weekend. And speaking of Cowboys, the blame game has begun. Let's dive in. Yes, Dallas sits in first place in the division, and sure, they boast an offense ranked third in the league in yards, and they did average over 30 points in their first 3 wins. But they are coming off a loss to the Saints, where Dallas's offense looked stagnant, where Dak looked average, and where Zeke looked stalled. You can bet Jerry Jones put his attention towards first-year offensive coordinator Kellen Moore.
Hottest seat, the one that is more likely to have the most criticism, is the offensive coordinator in the NFL. It's the hottest seat in the business. And boy, when that when it doesn't work and you don't get the win, then get ready. They're going to be coming for you as a coordinator. So Kellen knows this. His head coach knows it. I know it. That still doesn't mean now that you don't come in there and improve on how you got ready to play. So you're supposed to make adjustments when you don't get it done.
CC, things don't get much easier for the Cowboys. They host the Packers this weekend. So what do you think needs to change for them on offense after their poor showing in New Orleans?
Well, you get back to the basics. You don't overreact to what happened. Also, you realize that these guys are professionals. They're paid a lot of money to be able to stop your offense. And after going back looking at the game, I wonder how healthy Amari Cooper was, because he went and got an MRI during the week. Now, typically, you don't get an MRI unless there's really something serious going on with you, unless it's after a game. It wasn't after a game. It just happened to be midweek. They thought he needed an MRI. He got one. And in the game, you could see that he couldn't create separation. So if he's injured, I'm not going to overreact. I have to try to manipulate it to be able to get him off of press coverage, because he's going to get a lot of that this weekend in the Green Bay game. But it all starts with the running game. I want to try to protect that left side. Tyron Smith's not going to be in the lineup, which that running game is going to lead to play action pass. We got to take some shots down the field to be able to open up this defense, to be able to threaten them deep down the field. Now, since Michael Gallup, since he's been out, since week number 1, he got injured week number 2, their down-the-field passing game hadn't been as good. So that's something that I do want to look at, but I'm getting back to the basics. Zeke's going to carry the ball. He's going to carry it especially early and often to be able to get this offensive line back on track, playing at home, home crowd, going against a Green Bay defense that is 26th against the run and 18th in the red zone. So that's the way I'm going to attack it. I'm not going to overreact. I'm going to give the Saints some type of credit for being able to negate me, because the Saints did the same thing to the Cowboys last time they faced them.
Let's start with the running game, what you're talking about there. We saw Philadelphia somewhat salvage the first quarter of their season by running the ball down Green Bay's throat, by neutralizing what Green Bay had gone out in the offseason and acquired a pass rush. We saw Philadelphia have their most successful rushing day of the year in that critical game this past Thursday against Green Bay. Dallas must replicate that, because they're going to have a hard time throwing the football. Because I agree with you, Amari Cooper, you know how you know he couldn't get separation? 2 offensive pass interference penalties on him in that game, pushing off to get that separation, because Dak Prescott was exceptional in week 1 and has been good, but not great since week 1, coincidentally, since Michael Gallup's been out. It's got to be Zeke. The Dallas Cowboys, since Dak and Zeke have been together, are 1-8. If Zeke does not get 75 yards rushing, the one win was week 1 of this season against a Giants team that when Zeke was on a pitch count, so it's a little bit different. In games, they expect Zeke to be able to be a full go. If he does not give you elite level production, they don't win. So yes, it has to be Ezekiel Elliott in this game. They can worry about if all the accolades we were giving to Kellen Moore earlier in the season were a little premature later. They can worry about what new wrinkles this new offensive coordinator, the youngest in the league, needs to add a little bit later. What has to happen this weekend on Sunday afternoon is Zeke Elliott not only get the touches, but the production to go along with it because, and those of us who are still a little skeptical of Dak, what we know is when Zeke doesn't play well, the Cowboys don't win. That's why they made him the league's first $100 million running back. He's got to play well this Sunday.
Is there some concern for the fact that Dak's play has leveled off a bit over the course of the season? Each game, I think you gave us the numbers yesterday, they have been on a steady decline, even though it's just a little bit. Is that him? Is that the play calling? Is that production from Zeke? Where do you place that?
No, one is the competition. The competition they're facing is going to cause your numbers. You're not going to be able to get the Dolphins every week. You're not going to be able to get the rebuilding Washington every single week. To me, his passing, his skill set, he's duplicating, reading the coverages. He's sudden with the football. He's spreading the ball around. He's not forcing the ball anywhere. He's not making young mistakes with the football. No, I mean, if we sit here and watch every player and watch their numbers every week, we're going to be on a roller coaster ride. All right? He's made drastic improvements throwing the ball. Yes, there's doubters on every quarterback that we have in the league, even Tom Brady. I wouldn't say Dak's performance in week number 4 against the Saints would cause me to be alarmed. Not about his play, not about Kellen Moore's play calling. That was a good defense they were facing. Last year, were we saying the same thing after they basically played the same type of game, all right? Early in the season, it's just so easy to overreact. And younger players, when we haven't seen it, we don't give them the credibility that we've given the veteran players. But Dak has made drastic improvements as far as the passing game. I think that is there to stay. But if Amari Cooper is injured and Michael Gallup is out, that's his number 1 and number 2 target. All right? I believe with both of those things being true, he's functioned fairly well in the last 2 weeks.
And we probably did overreact a bit to week 1. Week 1, he has a perfect passer rating. He has 4 touchdowns. He's got 400 yards passing.
That's the Miami game?
No. That's the New York Giants game. They went Giants, Washington, Miami,
and
then this past week against Philadelphia. Week 1, he was exceptional. Since then, he's been good, not great. 98 rating, 5 touchdowns, 3 picks. And you can see it right there, week 1 versus the rest of the season. Dak would take that second column extrapolated over the course of the season. So it's not like he's been bad. He would take 98 passer rating, 7.5 yards per attempt, 70% completions the rest of the way, even if we just X out that first week. What he would not take and where he has to get better is in weeks 2, 3, and 4, third down. 14 of 23 on third down, a 65 passer rating on third down. Third downs is where Dak has struggled mightily after week 1, where he was exceptional in all phases of it. Part of that is down and distance situations. Part of that is more difficult third downs they're facing. Part of that's play calling and the injuries, all of it. But that's the area that week 1, he was perfect on third down. Weeks 2, 3, and 4, he struggled. And that's one of the reasons the offense in the first half, if we remember, first few drives in the game against Washington struggled. The entire first half against Miami struggled. And the entire game against Philadelphia struggled. They're going to need that offense to click against what I believe to be the best defense they've faced yet this year in Green Bay on Sunday.
And if I was nitpicking as far as Kellen Moore, that's where Dak needs some help. They could be a little more creative on third down. Third down is the hardest down to be able to throw the ball. Typically, they can anticipate you throwing it. That right there, I could see. As far as Jerry, you could see that he's a little bit young as far as that. So look for them to try to improve and be more creative on third down.
Are you ready for what's ahead? You can't always predict the future, but you can game plan for it. Generations of families and businesses have harnessed the power of Pacific to help them reach their unique goals. Whether you need to save money to meet your needs, ensure your family is protected, or make sure you don't run out of money, Pacific Life has a variety of financial solutions that can help. Pacific Life counts more than half of the 100 largest U.S. companies as its clients and has been named one of the 2019 world's most ethical companies by the Ethisphere Institute. Protecting what matters most to people for 150 years and counting, that's the power of Pacific. Ask a financial professional about how Pacific Life can help you game plan for your future, or visit www.pacificlife.com. One of the best matchups of the season taking place Thursday night on Fox. Rams in Seattle to face the Seahawks. Both teams sitting at 3-1 in the NFC West. Seahawks coming off a win, but they continue to leave Russell Wilson without big weapons around him. And the once mighty, mighty Rams didn't look so mighty last week in a bad loss to the Bucks. Cris Carter, the best team in the division right now, Rams or Seahawks?
I think roster, I would say the Rams have a better roster. As far as team and how it's going to play out,
yeah,
I think Seattle has the edge. I did not like what I saw last week. When you talk about the Rams and people might say, well, that's just Tampa Bay. Maybe that was just a bad week. Well, let's just go back even to last season. Not only the Super Bowl, where New England ran up and down the field on them. Last year, the Rams were able to get by, giving up more yards per carry than anyone in the league. And to me, that scares me. Because people are going to find that out. And Wade Phillips, that is not the MO of one of his defenses. And without Ndamukong Suh, is Aaron Donald after coming off 20 sacks, but Ndamukong Suh was next to him. I'm concerned about them shoring up that defense. I'm concerned about Todd Gurley and that knee. I'm going to keep beating that drum that Todd Gurley is not healthy, and I doubt if we'll ever see the Todd Gurley that we've seen the last 2 years. So for me, Seattle, the way they're put together, the way Russell Wilson's playing, the way Pete Carroll coaches football, I believe in what they're going to do, even though I don't like them losing at home to Seattle, to Teddy Bridgewater.
To New Orleans.
Yeah, to New Orleans. I don't like that. But the fact of there's more positive things in Seattle and that defensive front that they're putting together. Clowney's now he's starting to make plays there at that defensive end. So Seattle, I would say, they got better energy right now than the Rams.
If momentum's a thing, they're feeling better.
I got that all Snoop. Snoop was on. He's talking about energy yesterday.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You did a great job on Undisputed, too. That was awesome. Listen, you don't give Seattle a pass for losing at home to New Orleans without Drew Brees, but if you watch the game, if you give up 2 non-offensive touchdowns, you're going to lose the game. Seattle gave up a punt return touchdown, gave up a defensive touchdown. Those things lead to upset victories, especially with a team as well coached as New Orleans and as quality personnel. New Orleans is not a one-man band now. Just because Drew Brees is out, they have shown the ability to compete week in, week out. They showed it this past week against Dallas. The reason I like Seattle going into the year in this division is in the division, who has the best coach? I know everyone loves Sean McVay. I will still say Pete Carroll. In this division, who has the best quarterback? It is not a question. It is Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson right now, we talked about it yesterday, is playing the best football of his career, while Jared Goff is playing the worst football he's played since he was a Jeff Fisher product, his rookie season. So you look at that, and then you say, which team has an identity? Seattle does. Now, sometimes the identity frustrates the hell out of me. They're going to run the football repeatedly, ask Russell to make magic on third down, believe they're going to play strong defense. What is the Los Angeles Rams defense? Well, it can't be the Los Angeles Rams identity, pardon me. It can't be smash-mouth defense if you're giving up league-leading yards per carry over the last 20 games this last season to this season.
Yep.
It can't be your running game when your running back's damaged goods. And it can't be we're going to sling it all around the field when your quarterback leads the league in turnovers. So if you don't have an identity on either side of the ball, if your coach, I think, is still dealing with some of the blowback from what happened to him in the Super Bowl, and if the other team knows exactly who they are and who they're trying to be, the answer in my mind is clearly the Seattle Seahawks.
But isn't it so ironic that if you had to pick one team last year that truly had an identity, it would be the Rams. We knew who they were, we knew what they did, and we knew how they did it, and they were very successful at it. If the Rams have a better roster, but you both seem to think that Seattle's the better team, how do they match up when they play each other Thursday night?
Well, that's the thing about it. Can the Rams offense with Jared Goff, can they throw it to the flat, keep time possession? I had Dusty look up this stat, and Sean McVay, if he gets 29 minutes time of possession since he's been a head coach, Nick, he is 23-1. Not even winning time possession.
Just playing it even.
If I get to 29 minutes, that's his record, basically unbeaten. So now I know I'm not going to be able to run the ball that way. So my play action pass typically is deeper down the field. No, I need to go to a shorter, more West Coast type offense where I'm throwing the ball, let Jared Goff, because he doesn't have great arm strength, he has good arm strength, and he's accurate. Be able to pick the defense apart so that I can still keep that clock ticking because that's their MO, and that defense, which is typically a little undersized, it can rest. But I don't believe that they're going to be able to run. Not only is Todd Gurley, not only does he have that knee that's not going to get better, offensive line right now, after being the last 2 years one of the top 5 that we've had, Pro Football Focus has them ranked as the worst offensive line. So not only Todd Gurley that you can look at that offensive line. They made a couple substitutions inside that line the last couple years, and it has not played the way that the head coach is used to getting the type of protection.
And the Rams have not been a great team since they left the field in that epic game against Kansas City. That game, now Kansas City scored a bunch of points, moved the ball on them, but that was the moment where Cris got real upset the next day. I remember it. Everyone's going to say the NFL's changing. Wait till December. We looked at that game as potentially, what man? You're going to have over-unders in the league of 60-plus points. Everyone's throwing the ball everywhere. Since then, the Rams haven't been great. Jared Goff has more turnovers than touchdowns. In the playoff run, the Rams were good but not great against Dallas. A lot of people thought if the right call is made, they lose the playoff game to New Orleans. And in the Super Bowl, they were awful. Now this year, so far, what have they done? Week 1 against Carolina. Yes, and you don't want to discredit wins, but we now know what Cam Newton was dealing with and what Carolina looked like the following week. Week 2 for the Rams after Carolina. They play New Orleans, who loses Drew Brees during that football game and has another brutal call go against them. Week 3 against Cleveland. If Cleveland just has a competent offensive game plan, we might be talking differently. And Week 4 against a Tampa Bay team that if there's any team that should be ripe for the picking, it's a team that lost the previous week on a stomach punch missed field goal and then has to travel from Tampa
and
Bay.
2 extra points.
Right, and 2 extra points from Tampa Bay to Los Angeles. And Tampa Bay jumped out on them 21-0. I don't want to act like the Rams are a bad football team because they're 3-1. They went to the Super Bowl last year.
No, they're not a bad
team. But they are not. If Coach Mangini were here, you know what he would say? You do not pick up where you left off the previous season. And right now, to my eye, through a month of football, they've been the 3rd best team in their division. San Francisco's been better. We just have forgotten about them because they had the early bye week.
Yep.
And Seattle's been better. We'll see if Seattle can continue it tomorrow night.
Despite being undefeated, the Patriots need to figure out how to get their offense going. The one bright spot for Tom Brady was supposed to be all-pro wide receiver Josh Gordon. But Josh Gordon hasn't played like an all-pro yet this season. Pat's offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels is taking the blame, saying, quote, I need to do a better job of finding ways to get him the ball. CC, how important is it for the Patriots to get Gordon more involved in this offense?
It's very important. They don't have any other options. But to me, I'm starting to see a little sign here. When Josh came back from a suspension this year, I don't know what kind of physical shape that he was in. It's not like other teams could get him. New England's very, very comfortable with him. But since he's been back, I haven't seen him have the explosion that I saw before. And how many times can you be suspended, be away from football, not practicing with the team, till you start losing some of your skill set? So for me with Josh Gordon, I'm wondering, how healthy is he? How much of his skill has he lost or has deteriorated because of the suspension? Because Demaryius Thomas, they highlighted him at the end of the preseason, like they were trying to use him. And then soon as they get AB, you know what they do? They move AB in front of Josh Gordon as the number 1 receiver. So not only physically, I wonder where Josh is psychologically, because moving AB in front of him, remember the Miami game at the beginning of the game? They threw AB like 3 of the first 4 attempts. As a wide receiver now, that can be disturbing. When you've been working all offseason, you done got reinstated in the league, you've been going through training camp, and AB's been acting a fool somewhere else, and you getting ready to reward him and move him in front of me? So this is something to watch. Like, we are not robots. We're humans. So Josh, this might be a great opportunity for him. But sometimes you forget about the opportunity and think about personally, why aren't my numbers? He's got a lot of incentives. He's incentivized to be really good this year, and he's the only deep threat that they have.
Well, so for him personally and for the Patriots team-wise, it's so critically important that Josh Gordon have a big season, especially now that Antonio Brown is gone. Now that their left tackle's on IR, their center's on IR, their fullback's on IR, and Sony Michel's not playing great. In fact, he's not even playing well. They need to have some type of threat to the defense. And maybe Edelman can get deep occasionally, but it's going to take him some time now. And what have we seen about Tom Brady this year? Nobody's getting the ball out quicker in the entire league than Tom Brady.
I got a better chance of getting deep this year than Edelman.
So your only real deep threats are Dorsett, who, by the way, is the second most productive receiver for the Patriots so far this year, which is a concern, and Josh Gordon. And Josh Gordon's the only one that can strike fear in the heart of the defense. If you want to open up some of the Pats' running game, then you would need someone that the defense has to account for over the top. And for Josh Gordon, I hate to bring up the money, but Josh Gordon's never been paid. Josh Gordon is still on a rookie contract. Josh Gordon is still making in the medium six figures, which, while is a great salary for a regular job, for an NFL guy that's been out of Baylor for 7 years, he can't even go out to the team dinners with the guys. And so,
how do you think he felt when they gave AB
$9 million guaranteed?
Yeah. $15 million the first year and gave him $20 million in the second year of that deal.
Triple what Josh Gordon has made in the entirety of his NFL career. So he's dealing with all these, the demons he has, the personal struggles that we are all rooting for him on. And then from an ego perspective, there's the money and the stats. And from a production football perspective, there is, am I still Flash? Am I still the guy who had one of the greatest individual seasons we've ever seen in the league history for the Browns with their quarterback situation? All those things are going on during a time the Patriots desperately need him. Maybe not this week against Washington, but over the course of the rest of the season.
But how much of this is on Josh Gordon to what for lack of a better term, play better, and how much is it on McDaniels to call plays for him? I mean, if they suddenly throw a bunch of plays his way, do his numbers suddenly go up, or is this more on Gordon?
No one utilizes their personnel better than New England. There is no player on New England's offense that would be more productive in another system. And that includes Edelman, that includes Brady, that includes them all. And right now, with them being absent of big plays and Brady just playing average football, this is on Josh Gordon. That's all they do. It's a football laboratory. You think they aren't designing plays all around the clock to try to figure out how to get these guys open? But no separation early. And Nick told you yesterday with Tom Brady, if you don't get open within 2.2 seconds, you can forget it, unless you're the turf, because that's where the ball's going to be headed.
All right, moving on to the Green Bay Packers. They're itching to get back on the field after a tough loss Thursday to the Eagles. Won't be easy for a number of reasons. One, the game's in Dallas. Two, Dallas is coming off a bad loss themselves. And three, Aaron Rodgers will probably be without his biggest weapon, Pro Bowl wide receiver Davante Adams, who's reportedly unlikely to play Week 5 with turf toe. See, how will Rodgers have to alter his game plan against the Cowboys if Adams can't go?
Well, he's definitely got to alter his game plan. We coming into this season, we thought Green Bay would be much improved defensively. We thought them playing at 34 with
Preston Smith,
with the Smith brothers. We thought that they would be able to get after the passer. We thought that they have a pass rush that would be elite. We know that their secondary is underrated, but they are on the verge with the draft picks and the way they're playing. Their secondary is on the verge of being elite. We knew, not Davante Adams, we knew whoever's going to be the second, third, and fourth receiver for Aaron Rodgers, it becomes important. We can't even believe Green Bay is going to run the ball. They've never run the ball since Aaron's been there, so we just say it as a place mark holder, but for the most part, we have to talk about Aaron and their wide receivers. And with Davante Adams being hurt, I don't know where they're going to go because Aaron Rodgers does not trust the other young receivers. And I'll take you back to last year in training camp when Aaron Rodgers complained about the lack of development of these young receivers. And this is not what Aaron's used to. Let me tell you what he's used to. When he took over for Brett Favre, Donald Driver, great route runner, consummate pro, made himself into a good player. Greg Jennings, another consummate route runner, knows coverages, great after the catch, has made himself from Central Michigan into a very good NFL player. Jordy Nelson, man, pulled himself up from his bootstraps, made himself into a great wide receiver by working the route tree. He could run any route. Now, not only are the receivers, they're all tall and it's deceptive to be able to time them up, but he's used to a more 5'10" to 6 foot wide receiver who can get in and out of his breaks, because with Aaron, he only needs a little bit of a time because he's so accurate and he can get the ball on you so quick. With these other guys, Valdez-Scantling, 6'4", Geronimo Allison, 6'3". When you are above 6'1" as a wide receiver, it becomes hard to get in and out of your routes. And what I have seen, the lack of improvement in the wide receiver, it's a concern for Aaron Rodgers. And now teams are going to go after and force them to be able to. I'm not worried about Jimmy Graham. I'm getting ready to put pressure on Aaron Rodgers and make him have to believe in these receivers that I haven't seen the type of continuity with an elite thrower like Aaron Rodgers that he should have.
To your point, Mrs. Randall Cobb in a spot like this as well.
Oh, Randall Cobb too. Oh,
Randall
absolutely.
Cobb, a guy who is being productive right now for Dallas. Green Bay thought we can find that production elsewhere, but they don't have someone that we've seen so far that fits his description, so to speak. A slot receiver, undersized guy that can do the things you're talking about. I think Green Bay would have won this past week if Davante Adams doesn't get hurt. I think that as much as I criticize him throwing the ball 4 times on 1st and goal from the 1, if Davante Adams is out there for those 4 plays, it might work out. Might have worked out at the end of the game if he's throwing to Davante Adams instead of a tipped pass interception that ended up ending the game there. This is a critical injury for the Green Bay Packers, especially given the fact they're facing the Dallas defense, because it is, so you've got Davante, who's been great and been great for multiple years now. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is about to play his first game in the NFL as a number 1. He probably is not yet ready to be a number 2, but he is the only other receiver on the Packers Aaron Rodgers has shown any faith in. After Adams and Valdez-Scantling, all the other receivers, not tight ends, running backs, receivers on the roster combined have 10 catches for 116 yards this year. That is their combined production. Starting Valdez-Scantling and the other, I'm sorry, not Valdez-Scantling, Geronimo Allison and the other receivers that are on their roster. So then you're talking, okay, so does Jimmy Graham get more involved? Man, Jimmy Graham hasn't had a good year since 2016, hasn't had a great year since we saw him in New Orleans with the Saints, being a basketball player, going and getting jump balls, 1,200-yard season, a 16-touchdown season. The running game that they were going to be more committed to under Matt LaFleur. Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, their 2 running backs, have carried the ball 85 times for 282 yards with a long of 15 yards.
And hold on, Jamal Williams didn't even practice on Monday.
Right, so Jamal Williams, we saw him take a brutal hit in this past game.
So we don't even know what his availability
But that's 3.3 per carry for those guys. You have to have Davante Adams in order for this offense to have any punch to it. Even if Aaron Rodgers is still a top 2 quarterback in the NFL, who's he throwing to? Right. Again, what will the Cowboys do if they say to themselves, okay, the only receiver who has any level of production is Marquez Valdez-Scantling? Well, if we need to eliminate him, if that's our number 1 goal, you can eliminate him. And then you're talking about Robert Tonyan, talking about Trevor Davis, talking about guys who do not have a lot of business being a big part of your passing game.
So how much of this is going to come down to what the Packers defense can do on Sunday?
Oh, they got to give him a short field. They got to give Aaron Rodgers a couple of turnovers. You have to understand, and it's up to Matt LaFleur to be able to make sure that the team understands. We don't have the firepower we typically would do. And when you don't have the firepower on one of that third of the special teams, someone's injured, defense, someone's injured, the guys on the team know, man, we got to carry more water today. Green Bay cannot rely on Aaron Rodgers and this offense. They got to rely on their special teams. They got to rely on their defense. That's what good teams do until Davante Adams can come back. Now, I would be surprised if he's up and healthy within a month. That turf toe for wide receivers, taking off, pushing off of that toe, putting pressure on that joint right there, it becomes very, very difficult. And the only remedy for turf toe is rest. That is the only thing. So we'll continue to watch that. But that injury right there could determine what type of season Green Bay is going to have.
You know what it tells me, Jenna?
What?
Biggest game of the weekend. No Tyron Smith, no Davante Adams. Under 46.5 sounds awful good to me.
I was going to say under 46.5.
Yeah.
That's good to me, too.
Jump on that now, America.
Jump on it. Back here, first things first, and we're joined by former All-Pro running back Brian Westbrook. Good morning,
What's up,
Brian.
Good morning,
to see
man.
you.
Good morning. I
Good
like
to
that
see
blue
you.
that you got on, brother.
Thank you very
That's
much.
good. That's
Appreciate
good.
that.
Got a bunch of well-dressed
Cece,
men here on
you're
this
doing the
set.
same thing all the time, looking good. Clean as the board of health.
He's the board of health.
Casket clean. In case I die, go ahead and bury me.
Brian, your Eagles picked up a big win in Week 4, putting them right back in the mix in the NFC East. And while Carson Wentz's numbers won't blow you away, the team's many dropped passes aren't doing him any favors either. Taking that into account, Pro Football Focus ranks Wentz as the top quarterback through 4 weeks of play. Brian, what are your impressions of Wentz this season? But first, what is your reaction to that?
Whoa. Now, I think we're all clear on who's the best quarterback in the league.
What's Pro Football Focus doing? Last week they had Brady. This week they got Brent. So are they just trying to run people away?
No, they're trying to give us something to talk about. That's what we're doing
Well,
here.
it
We're
works.
bringing them up. Every
It's a
time
segment.
they say something like that, we bring up Pro Football Focus, and that's what it's all about. But obviously the best quarterback in the league is Patrick Mahomes. I think everybody understands that, especially after that comeback win last week. But Carson Wentz, after not playing in the preseason, is getting a little bit better every single game. I think the game is slowing down for him. He's understanding defenses a little bit more. He's understanding where the holes in the defenses are. And he's doing all of this without Deshaun Jackson for the last 3 games. And I think that's really, really key. When you talk about the Detroit game before the Packers game, 7 drops, that hurts you as far as statistically. He just can't get it done. The one thing that you don't have without Deshaun is that ability to stretch the football. That means now Alshon has to find a way to get open when he gets healthy. Obviously, he was not healthy last week. Zach Ertz has to play a bigger role. And I think all those things are going to help Carson Wentz. But right now, the one thing that I think is plaguing Carson the most is not being able to perform in the first quarter. That first quarter of football, he has 0 touchdowns. He has to be able to start a lot faster. That means Doug Peterson has to start faster. That offensive line has to start faster. And when you look at it, in this Packers game, they were able to run the football early. That allowed Doug to open up this offense just a bit. That allowed Carson to get more comfortable, and that offensive line played much better, especially in that first quarter. If they can do all those things, then you can put Carson in the mix for one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL.
So, listen, I think Carson Wentz has been better than his numbers suggest. I think particularly in the Week 3 game, you saw he made a bunch of plays that just were not fulfilled by his wide receivers. You saw him make a bunch of – that was the game where you had the 7 drops. He had the Dallas Goedert dropped a touchdown. You had Nelson Aguilar. That was the game where my man caught the baby out of the building, so didn't drop him like Aguilar. I mean, so I think Wentz is better than his numbers suggest. And for whatever it's worth, Pro Football Focus, it's not just some guy making a list. They have a formula, they have an algorithm, they input their data, and it spits this out. What I would say to them is, if you input the data and the quarterback in the NFL who's #1 in rating, touchdowns, yards, and yards per attempt is behind the quarterback in the NFL who's 19th, 4th, 17th, and 26th in those same categories, maybe tweak the algorithm a bit. But for the bigger picture, I don't think Wentz has been the problem. I don't even think he's been a big part of the problem. I think the problem's been the units on the Eagles that were supposed to be great, offensive line and defensive line in particular, have not been great, and they've been dealing with injury. On defensive line, the players alongside Fletcher Cox. You lose Malik Jackson, then you lose Timmy Jernigan. So where your depth that we said was going to be so great, it starts to get questioned. But your point about Wentz in the beginning of games, it's something I keyed on as well. And the question I'd have to you guys, two great offensive players, is how much of that first quarter is, we always hear it talked about, the scripted first 15 plays, that you talk teams getting out to a fast start because the coach has a game plan in place for that specific opponent that is not really game situation specific, because it's 0-0 or it's 3-0. It's the beginning of football games. Doug Peterson had excelled with that in the past. The Eagles offense had excelled with that in the past. How much of that is on the coach rather than the quarterback, these slow starts?
I'll take the first part of that. Let's just go to, because a lot of this just breaks down game by game. We've only played 4 games, so it's really not enough. It's only 4 quarters of football. 2 of those being on the road, 1 being in Atlanta, one of the tougher places to play, the other one at Lambeau Field. So if I don't score a touchdown in those 2 places, that's no reason to be alarmed. First game of the season. Washington gets out to a start, Now, we didn't have a lot of continuity during preseason. So to say in quarter number one, game number one, we're going to struggle, yes, it's the NFL. It's difficult. So that part right there. So for me, I'm like you, Nick. I think Carson Wentz has performed a lot better. 8 drops in 2 games. Nelson Aguilar, the ball hit him in his face mask going down the sideline in the Atlanta game. And then we know the game after that, everyone was dropping the ball. What type of effect that has on the continuity of the offense and the psyche of the quarterback. So for me, Carson Wentz, he's had one of the better seasons, given that after D-Jack has gone out the lineup, you need to understand this about NFL, and it's called respect. If 2 guys run a 4-3, one guy don't have a resume, other guy got a resume, you know what the defense does? I'm going to put a safety over top for D-Jack, especially after the way he destroyed Washington in the first game with those deep passes, 2 touchdowns over 50 yards. They don't have that respect factor out there. So even though they got speed on the field, it's not the same effect on the defense. So Carson, every week, he's adjusting. Who's in the lineup? Alshon. He's out. Okay, so now what do I do? Nelson Aguilar, a couple games, was the featured receiver, and we know, B, he is not that. So it's been a tough 4 weeks for him as far as continuity. To me, he's playing some very good football.
Continuity is huge. Speed is even better. When you look at teams like Kansas City, no matter who they put in at the wide receiver position, speed is coming off that bench. And so Carson doesn't have that. The one guy that had speed was Deshaun Jackson. He's been gone for 3 weeks. All these other guys are more possession types of guys. That means Zach Ertz has to play a bigger role. The hard part about Zach Ertz is that most defenses are now saying, okay, we're going to double team Ertz and make you throw the ball to Aguilar, make you win with Mac Hollins, throw the ball to Alshon with him clearly not being healthy. Carson has to find a different way. The good thing for Carson is this. He has the arm talent to make every throw in the book. So that means he can figure things out with his arm. I think the game has slowed down. He's understanding defenses a little bit better, understanding where the coverage, where the safeties are moving just a bit. But he also has the ability to roll out, use his legs, and make plays down the field. When you have those things, I think those types of talents at the quarterback position usually figure it out, and I think he will continue to do that.
And the other good thing for that Week 4 game against Green Bay, other than the win, obviously, and these two are probably tied together, is they ran the ball incredibly effectively, and because of that, it was the first game all year Carson Wentz wasn't sacked. It was the first game all year he was pressured on less than 15% of his dropbacks. The best thing for Carson Wentz right now is through the first month of the season, seems healthy. He's not dealing with anything. That was our biggest question with Carson Wentz going into this season. In order for him to stay healthy, that running game and that offensive line have to continue to play better so it's not all on him like it was in that Atlanta game, which was, to me, even though maybe they could have wanted if Aguilar catches that pass down the sideline, that was his only really bad game of the year. That was the only game where you say, if Carson Wentz plays better, Philadelphia wins. That wasn't the case in Detroit. I feel like that was the case against Atlanta.
I agree with you. I think right now, whatever the Eagles are dealing with, the organization will probably say, well, right now he's healthy. Let's just build from there and move forward. Back here with Brian Westbrook. We're talking Rams. They're in Seattle to face the Seahawks Thursday night. That's on Fox. Both teams sitting at 3-1 in the NFC West. Seahawks coming off a win, but they continue to leave Russell Wilson without big weapons around him. And those once mighty Rams didn't look so mighty last week in a bad loss to the Buccaneers. Brian, your opinion, best team in the division right now? Is it Rams or is it Seahawks?
You know, when I look at this thing, I kind of compare it to this. And in the summertime, you want that nice, shiny Mercedes-Benz, that nice, shiny sports car when you got that.
That's a good start.
Yeah. You want to start there. I know you got a Benz. I know how the receivers like to get down. They like to drive those sports cars and do their thing. And that's what you get with the Rams. You're talking about 3 receivers that can go for over 100 yards. They're fast. They're speedy. I think when Todd Gurley gets healthy, if he ever gets healthy, he'll help to contribute just a little bit there. Sean McVay, young coordinator that's throwing the ball all over the place. Looks good, especially during the regular season.
But what do you want in the winter?
In the wintertime, I want that pickup truck. I want that truck that's going to say, oh, reliable. Every time I turn you on, I start you up, the heat's going to come on. And if it's snowing, I'm going to put you in 4-wheel drive, and I'm going to drive. Russell Wilson is old reliable. That Seattle offense and defense is old reliable. You can depend on them. You know what you're going to get. You know exactly how things are going to go. And if you go to Seattle and have to play, you understand that 12th man up there, that's going to be effective. You know that defense is going to get after you with the addition of Clowney. But you also know, more importantly, Russell Wilson is not going to throw the ball to the other team. He's not going to turn it over. They're going to depend on that run game just a bit. He's going to get the ball to the targets that he has on time. That's what you want out of, especially in crunch time, November, December, and January. You want old, reliable Russ. So to me, as I look at this thing, you get that shiny new toy during the season, that's the Seahawks, that's the Rams. But you want in December and January, that old, reliable pickup truck, that's Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, you've owned a lot of cars. I've owned a lot of cars. Every once in a while, you got to watch out for Range Rover because they got some lemons.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
I mean, they look good and everything, but something typically, like mechanically.
Maintenance is high.
Oh, it's absolutely.
Parts are high,
but they have some,
high.
every once in a while, it'll be driving nice, and all of a sudden, there's a problem. Let's be real, man. You and I have a lot of good conversations off the air. Todd Gurley got his money, so it ain't our job to protect him. What's going on with that knee, bro? Because they ain't telling us the truth.
Well, I'll tell you this. So I tore my ACL in '96. So I played my entire college and NFL with a degenerative knee. So it got worse little by little every single year. And towards the end of my career, I stopped practicing on Wednesdays. I practiced limited on Thursday, and I went all out on Friday, which was a half day, which was kind of halfway.
Brian, how many times did you lie to people like myself and Jenna who came to talk to you? Hey, man, we're looking at the film. You're getting. How many times did you just look in our face and just lie?
Every week, because here's the deal. I want you guys to feel like I'm going to be 100%. And what you're seeing right now for Todd Gurley is that he's not 100%. Look back to 2018. It's two different things. This year, he's only seen 8 men in the box 6% of the time. And 8 men in the box is a run-stopping defense. He's only seen that 6% of the time, and he's still not successful. Here's the deal. I think the offensive line needs to play much better. I don't think Gurley is completely healthy. Last year, he was getting contact. His first contact was 2.5 yards down the field. That's a good thing. This year is 1.7. So, truthfully, the offensive line is not getting up to that second level. They're allowing guys into the backfield. He has to do a better job running the football, but the offensive line has to do a much better job. He has to get healthy. I'm not sure that he can get healthier as the season progresses. Unfortunately, it's hard to do that.
Oh, so let me address this from both teams. Let me start with the Rams. Because the question is, what are the Rams without Todd Gurley? What is any team without their best player? Like, so let's make us the Rams real quick. Cris, you're going to be Todd Gurley. You're going to be Brandon Cooks. We brought you in from the outside because you're an all-pro. Jenna, you can be Aaron Donald because you're the most talented and workout freak. I'll be Sean McVay for obvious reasons. And so, even with Cooks, Donald, McVay, what is this show without Cris? I think it'd still be good, but have to be very different. Yeah. Have to go through a reinvention. Have to do a lot of things, and you cannot do that on the fly. You have to go through probably a year of figuring out how are we replacing our best guy, and can we? The Rams trying to pretend they don't got to. The Rams trying to just plug someone else in there, even, we're going to call him Cris Carter, we're going to act like that.
Did it with OJ or C.J. Anderson. They were successfully able to do it, at least temporarily.
Briefly.
Short period of time.
Very short period of time.
But they made it work.
With a better offensive line.
Okay, so
and
maybe
by the
that
way,
was the difference.
They also scored 3 points in the Super Bowl. They also needed the worst
call. But they got to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but, Todd Gurley got him through in the marathon through the first 22 miles. You need CJ trying to get you across the finish line.
Yeah,
and you
little roly-poly got him there.
I mean, Todd Gurley, they essentially had locked up home field advantage before Todd Gurley started. They were 11-1 last year. They didn't have a lot of work to do, and they probably shouldn't have won the NFC Championship game. The offense was non-existent in the Super Bowl. So there's the concern about the Rams. What are you without your best guy? For Seattle, we have been tricked a little bit, I think, by how good quarterbacks have been in year 15 plus and how good quarterbacks have been immediately, to where we have forgotten when quarterbacks are supposed to be at their best. We see Brady win an MVP in year 18. We see Mahomes win an MVP in year 2. And we say guys can be great from the very beginning to the very end. Pro football players are supposed to peak, especially that position, around year 7, 8, 9. Your athleticism hasn't waned. You've seen enough. You have all the experience.
Yep.
This is year 8 for Russell Wilson, man. Russell Wilson has not all the answers to the test like Brady, but he got a cheat sheet now. His athleticism is as good as it's ever been. He's never been hurt. And so what we're seeing is the best version of Russell Wilson we've ever seen, to where he can offset that lack of talent. So do I think the Seahawks are the favorites? Absolutely. If I were John Schneider, would I be calling up Cincinnati and saying, hey, man, A.J. Green's on that expiring contract. He probably ain't going to stay with y'all. You guys are going to be terrible. Maybe you want to work something out? Sure. Because, of course, to me, for Seattle to be not just the divisional favorites, but the conference favorites, they do need more punch in their offense. But in the meantime, I know what Seattle's identity is. They never lost their best player because they still have Russell Wilson.
But when it comes to the Rams, you're right. They're not going to be able to change midway through the season. This is who they have, this is who they got, and this is who they're going to try to win with. Is it on Sean McVay to be able to do what he couldn't do in the Super Bowl against New England, which is try to adjust, which is we know what he's going to do, but can you figure out a way to change that and adjust midway through a game, midway through a season to put your team in a great chance to win?
The tough adjustment is the player still wants to play. You only got 60 snaps. They got a third-round draft pick that he needs to play too.
And he might be better than Gurley right now.
And Jared Goff, I got to protect him. So I only got so much when I don't have good pass protection. I don't have a running game. There's only so many sexy routes that I can run. There's only so many times that I can just flat fool the defense. Sometimes you got to drop back 5 steps. He's got a curl. He's got a flat. One of the guys got a deep. And I got to pick a guy and let it fly and put it on him. And that's what they don't have in Jared Goff. I'm not here to try to just say bad things about Todd Gurley. I just think if you're in the football community and you're analyzing the Rams, you should analyze them with the thought he will never be what he was. That's the only truth that we can put on the situation. We can't keep saying, well, what if he gets healthy in December? This is not something that typically gets better.
You know what? Jared Goff, 68 passes last week, 3 interceptions and a fumble. That's not going to get it done. So they have to find a way, whether it's Malcolm Brown or a little bit of Todd Gurley. To me, for Todd Gurley only had 1 game over 15 carries, that's just not enough. If you're going to have to wear him down, let's find out right now if it's going to be too much, because in January, you're going to have to play 3 or 4 games, and you're going to have to win those games. We're going to need Todd Gurley. I know we want him to be healthy, but I want to find out right now, can he withstand that type of beating, or did that mean that we need to get Malcolm Brown ready? If we need to get the youngster ready, we're willing to do that, but we have to find out what we have in our horse. Gurley is that guy. He still has that ability. He's a slasher. It's just he can't do it as frequently because of that knee.
And Seattle, they are missing Doug Baldwin. But you can believe that Pete Carroll and John Snyder, general manager, if you want to find out where Antonio Brown might land when he gets done taking them online classes, Seattle is the most likely landing spot for AB when he resurfaces. They had interest in him before he went to New England. They still need a wide receiver. Their locker room and their culture can handle it. Remember, they had Marshawn Lynch and all them wild boys. Yeah. They can handle it. So Russell might get some assistance as we go down the stretch, too.
Packers are itching to get back on the field after a tough loss Thursday night to the Eagles. Won't be easy for a number of reasons. 1, that game's in Dallas. 2, Dallas is coming off a bad loss themselves. And 3, Aaron Rodgers will probably be without his biggest weapon. Pro Bowl wide receiver Davante Adams is reportedly unlikely to play Week 5 with what, CC? Turf toe. Asked and answered. Brian, how will Rodgers have to alter his game plan?
Give me some type of warning. I was down the street.
Well, turf toe is hard to deal with for anybody, so I understand that. And I've dealt with so many injuries, turf toe being one. It's going to be a little bit before Davante Adams comes back. But this is what you have in this offense. It's Davante Adams and a set of other guys. Davante Adams, 25 catches, 378 yards. The rest of the receivers, 26 catches, 333 yards. They just can't get it done without him. But if you watch the beginning of that football game, it tells you everything. Aaron Rodgers, that kind of smug look on his face. He's confident. He's 10 for 10 early. Davante Adams is a big part of that. Then you fast forward to the end of the game, and that whole look of smugness goes off his face. He has no confidence at all. They had an opportunity to go down and win that football game. Davante Adams on the sideline. He didn't know where to turn. He didn't have any confidence in Valdez-Scantling. He had no confidence in Allison. This is the thing. Quarterbacks have communication with receivers that no one else understands. CC understands it. No one else understands it on the field. You give them this little hand gesture here. Yep. You do like this. Whatever the quarterbacks do to the wide receivers.
Yeah, Warren Moon grabbed the back of his head. I know to run a fade.
And you know exactly what it is.
I was like, because I wear a fade haircut.
There it is. And it takes time to develop that. And I think the confidence that Aaron Rodgers has in these young receivers is just not there right now. It takes time. It doesn't take a week's worth of practice. It takes time to develop that over years. You saw it with Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb and Greg Jennings, all those guys that were able to do it for a long time. He doesn't have that confidence in these young guys. He has to figure it out. If you're telling me that Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks that has ever played the game, I expect him to figure it out. He has to do it in a week's time. We'll see if he gets it done, though.
That's a great point there. As far as with Aaron's arm talent, he should be able to figure that out. Dan Marino, he didn't have Clayton and Mark Clayton and Duper his whole career. No, he had to figure that thing out. And the best at this should be able to figure it out. Now, I don't know what they're going to do, because Aaron Rodgers has warned them about these wide receivers the last couple of years. The first warning sign was he wasn't happy they didn't sign Jordy Nelson. Mm-hmm. All right? So that was the first one. Then they lose Cobb in the offseason to Dallas. So not only is he not happy with his guys, I'm getting ready to play against one of my buddies who's doing a good job for the Dallas Cowboys. And for me, the Packers, they used to be like the Steelers, where they developed a lot of middle round draft picks into really good wide receivers. They're not doing that now. And I don't like the size. I like wide receivers to be big, but I need a basketball team. I need a dude like 5'11", 6 foot. I need someone 6'2", someone 6'5", someone 6'6", someone to be like a center. They don't have that. They got a bunch of big guys besides Davante Adams. He is their scoring machine. Beside that, they got guys 6'3" and 6'4". Guys who are that tall, typically, their football fundamentals and their routes, they are not the same as small guys. Small guys coming out of their breaks really quick. And Aaron Rodgers can time them up because most of the guys that he's had outside of Jordy Nelson have been all around the same size, around 5'11", 5'10", 6 foot at the best, and getting out of their breaks. These other receivers, he hadn't been able to time up with them. That is a problem moving forward. The Davante Adams, we said, who's going to be their number 2 and 3 target going into the season? And now, with him out with that turf toe, which I believe he's going to be out for at least a month, it is going to be trouble for Aaron Rodgers and Jamal Williams, their second running back. He's out.
Well, so right now, the Packers, with no Davante Adams, it is the least talented receiving corps in football. If you take Davante Adams off it, we said Jacksonville, man, DJ Chark would come in and be the best receiver on the Packers today with no Davante Adams.
That's a good observation right there.
Seattle, man, you think Aaron Rodgers wouldn't take Tyler Lockett right now? He might take DK Metcalf. He'd certainly take Tyler Lockett in a heartbeat. And so Marquez Valdes-Scantling has had some big plays for them. But it is a similar situation that we talked about with Juju. Okay, do it as a number 2. Now you got to do it as a number 1. I think Marquez Valdes-Scantling, this point in his career, is probably a little underqualified to be a number 2 receiver in this league. He's now going to have to be a number 1. The other receivers, all of them on the roster combined, Geronimo Allison and the others, have 10 catches this year. And you mentioned you're not going to be able to get it done in a week, the rapport. Last season, Davante was targeted 168 times. All the other receivers, 193 combined.
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers has relied on Davante. Last year, Davante had 13 touchdown catches. The rest of the team had 12. It has been Davante Adams. I'm as high on the Packers as anybody this year. But this is a devastating injury for them in the short term. I think it cost them the game on Thursday Night Football against Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I think they punched
They couldn't do anything with him.
I mean, he got them down the field to set up that 1st and goal from the 1. You see him come off the field. He never comes back on. They have 6 more plays inside the 5-yard line. They have 5 incompletions and a turnover on those 6 plays. I mean, that is... you saw it instantly. The Packers are going to need their defense to play its best game since week 1 against Chicago if they're going to have any shot in this game because of how important Davante Adams is.
So, Brian, normally we would go through all this and then we'd say, okay, a lot of pressure, a lot of emphasis placed on the run game. We're really going to have to focus. The Packers are going to. But you laugh because they're void of a run game. No. And they're void seemingly of a passing game. What are the Packers going to do?
Well, I think the run game is kind of out of the question. You came into this season saying, we're going to run the ball more, and that obviously hasn't happened. Having Jamal Williams hurt, big-time injury this past week, that even hurts that run game even more. I think Nick mentioned it. It's the defense. Your defense has to step up, and this is not going to make Aaron Rodgers happy. But now Matt LaFleur, as the play caller and head coach, he's going to have to scheme a game plan that plays more to your defense, not less. Not that doesn't mean throw the ball more. That means you're going to have to run the ball a little bit more, maybe get involved with some of the short passes on 1st and 2nd down. Give your team a chance to stay on the field on 3rd down. You may not get those big plays down the field, those back shoulder throws to Davante Adams, but you have the ability to stay on the field and play to your defense a little bit more. We saw the Dallas Cowboys last week get out physical defensively. You can do the same thing with this Green Bay defense, and if you can do that, then you can win with that group of receivers that you have there in Green Bay.
Yeah, this will be the game where Matt LaFleur will be under more scrutiny, him and Aaron Rodgers. So I'm watching what they're saying before the game. I'm watching body language during the game, because in games like this, is if you have some type of frustration, that's when it would come out. Because, Aaron, there's a lot of pressure. In the NBA, the guys want the pressure on them because a dominant player can dominate the game. In the NFL, you can't dominate the game. You're relying on a lot of other things, and when you don't have the weapons and you don't have a running game, to me, how do I make this game short? I'm still getting ready to run the ball. I know no one else saying I'm still getting ready to run the ball because I am not getting ready to back Aaron Rodgers up 45 times against that Dallas D, which I do believe can make their pass blocking there suspect for the Packers.
And the other element is, on the flip side for this game on Sunday, I would argue both teams are going to be without their most important non-quarterback. That if we were ranking guys that you don't want to lose out on, for the Cowboys, it's left tackle Tyron Smith. For the Packers, it's wide receiver Davante Adams. I know some people would say Zeke, he's the best player. I think in the very short term, if you have all your offensive linemen, you can make it work with Tony Pollard for maybe a game. The Cowboys without their left tackle, the Packers without their wide receiver, we'll see which team can deal with that loss better. Probably determines who wins it.
Back here talking Eagles. Philadelphia picked up a big win in Week 4, putting them right back in the mix in the NFC East. And while Carson Wentz's numbers won't blow you away, the team's many drop passes, they're not doing Wentz any favors. Taking that into account, Pro Football Focus ranks Wentz as the top quarterback through 4 weeks of play. C, what are your impressions of Carson Wentz thus far this season?
I like where Carson is. I like that. Because the thing I was worried about was the Andrew Luck concept. Is he going to keep just fighting, trying to stay in the pocket, trying to continue in the play, like compared to throwing the ball away, living the fight another day? And it seems like he's far more careful as far as trying to take care of his body and not trying to be as rugged. Like, he's a rugged quarterback. Like, he's been rugged in high school, college. He's a great athlete. And you don't want to take away all that creativity, but he's got to be able to take care of himself. This is the most important thing in this year for him is his overall health. And with the lack of consistency with the wide receivers, you mentioned 7 drops week number 3, the big drop down the sideline for Nelson Aguilar in week number 2 against the Atlanta Falcons. It's hard for a quarterback to have continuity and to have faith that I'm going to do my job. I read the defense. I see the space where the ball should go and throw it in there with anticipation, knowing that whoever's going to come in there, they're going to catch it. So when you drop that many passes over a short period of time, every quarterback is holding the ball a little bit longer. So for me, based on the competition, what he's been against, down in situation, the first game I thought he started a little bit slow, but after that, caught on fire. I think that he's played good football. He is on a track which I still think to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I'm very, very satisfied with his overall progress.
Listen, these are 2 separate questions. One is, has Carson Wentz been the best quarterback in the NFL this year? Obviously not. To my eye, he hadn't even been the best quarterback in his own division. Dak's been better through 4 weeks. In the NFC, you expand it past the NFC East, Russell Wilson's been better. And you expand it to the entire NFL, of course, Patrick Mahomes has been better than everyone, much less Carson Wentz, who this year you can say, while, yes, Nelson Aguilar.
Well, help explain to us then, why Pro Football Focus? Because last week there was a lot of dispute. Brady was on the top of the chart.
So what they're
because they do a hell of a job as far as
I really
evaluating.
like Pro Football Focus, and I appreciate the way they evaluate players, and they do a wonderful job in helping guys, I will say, such as myself, understand which offensive linemen are really playing the best in the league. What guys who you don't have raw counting stats to account for are playing well. Mm-hmm. But there is something with the way they are grading quarterbacks that is going too far in the weeds and not enough of the obvious stuff. Like, I looked at it today. I looked at the data they had for their quarterbacks. And what is killing Mahomes is that he has 2 fumbles on the year that weren't even recovered by the defense. Now, you can argue, once you fumble the football, it's raw luck who gets it. I understand that. Mm-hmm. But even if you turn those 2 fumbles into turnovers, that would mean he has the same number of turnovers on the year as Carson Wentz, who had 2 interceptions in that Atlanta game. Mm-hmm. The one game of the year, despite the Nelson Aguilar drop, that you can say he played poorly in, that if he plays better, they come back and win that game. You just, sometimes, and it's not, they don't do the eye test, they have a formula, and they punch in their numbers. Their formula needs to be adjusted. Like, people create stats all the time. John Hollinger, who used to work for ESPN, created such an important stat, player efficiency rating. He got a job for 7 years with the Memphis Grizzlies in their front office, actually just left them to take a job with The Athletic. He created a stat. And when you punched in the historical data, you know what it said the top 3 players ever were? Jordan, LeBron, Wilt. And when you create a stat and it's like, oh, that actually passes the eye test. Shaq's in the top 10. You've got Oscar. So, okay, if you are creating a way to rank players and you say the quarterback who is number 1 in the NFL in rating touchdowns, yards per attempt, and hasn't turned the ball over, is the 6th best quarterback in football, while the quarterback in Carson Wentz, who's 19th in ratings, 17th in yards, 26th in yards per attempt, and has had a game that you can circle on the schedule against Atlanta that they would have won if he played better, has been the best quarterback, your formula's flawed. So that's that. Now, on Wentz, though, I do think he's played well. I do think his numbers don't do him full justice. Now, I'm not going to elevate him to the level that Pro Football Focus has, where they have been hurt terribly, is the lack of Deshaun Jackson. Week 1, they have 2 long passes, 20-plus yards in the air to Deshaun Jackson that result in touchdowns. Since then, he's 2 of 12 with no touchdowns and both of his interceptions on those types of passes. They have not been able to connect on the deep pass down the field.
Which was a problem last year.
Absolutely. Since D-Jack went out, that's where they need to get better. The reason they won the Green Bay game was they finally had an effective running game, took pressure off Wentz. He wasn't sacked for the first time all year. He was pressured the least all year. He was cleanest. He felt the best, I'm sure, physically coming out of that football game. That's the formula until they get their full complement of receivers back.
But the other place where the Eagles... And look, Wentz has been quietly off to a pretty good start, but the other place where they have some issues is starting games. They have trouble getting on the board. They have trouble getting out to an early lead, and then they can't hold it, and they find themselves playing catch-up. Why do you think that is? Because I think once he does that, maybe that instills a little more confidence.
Well, I think if you look at all the injuries they've had at wide receiver, they're trying to do running back by committee. So they got 3 guys they like to touch the ball as far as running backs. Wide receivers, they got 4 receivers and a tight end. Zach Ertz, who's a number 1 receiver. And they got a high draft pick in Dallas Goedert that ultimately he's got to play. So when you have guys miss time, Alshon Jeffrey is their chain mover. He's missed time. D-Jack on the outside, he's missed time. Zach Ertz has been the only constant in there. So you're throwing in new guys in there. Carson Wentz is working on himself. This is the biggest year of his career. He's trying to validate that first-round pick, trying to validate that second big contract. So he's going through a lot. And for 3 games, the offensive line was horrible. All right? So they weren't dominant at all. So I'm not as concerned when you don't have that continuity early in the season. You could start to see it in the passing game. And, Nick, your numbers indicate, as far as their deep passing game, how it's fallen off since D-Jack's been out of the lineup.
But the biggest thing the Eagles need to improve on is while Carson Wentz is on the sideline, the reason that they have not been the team that a lot of people thought was the most talented team in football, they haven't looked like it, is because they have the 32nd ranked pass defense in football. One of those reasons, yes, those corners get picked on all the time, but they have the fewest sacks of any team in football. If you have a questionable secondary and you're not creating pressure on the quarterback, teams are going to dice you up. That's what Green Bay was doing until Davante Adams went out of the football game. So for Philadelphia, big picture-wise, the offense is going to be fine. D-Jack will get back. I don't think Nelson Aguilar is going to have another game with all those drops. I think Dallas Goedert's not going to have another game where he drops a gift-wrapped touchdown pass that couldn't have been handed to him any better. The defense is where, if Philadelphia is going to catch up with Dallas, eventually pass Dallas, the defense has to be better. Because right now, while Dak's not been a better quarterback than Wentz so far this year, what's more surprising, the Dallas defense has been better than the Philly defense this year. That can't sustain if Philly's going to win.
Now's the time in the show where you're supposed to give Howie Roseman that advice. Okay. Go out and get Jalen Ramsey.
That's it. You think that's what it is?
That's your Super Bowl pick.
No, I know
Ramsey,
that.
32nd?
I don't fully believe he's going to even leave Jacksonville. I thought he would have done it already. Look who's here, joined now by WWE superstar Charlotte Flair.
Welcome.
Hey, Charlotte.
Welcome.
Thank you. I got the ultimate blessing from Charlotte when Nick made a little smart aleck comment, and she goes, "Go ahead, just smack him." I mean, boy, would I love to sometimes.
I appreciate that.
Just thought I'd let you know. She doesn't know the full flair of Nick Wright. All right, so Charlotte, great news. SmackDown returning to coming to Fox this Friday. The excitement, the festivities, everything leading up to it has been incredible. You can see everywhere you've been. Tell me a little bit about what the lead-up has been like for you from the inside with everybody.
So the anticipation, I've talked about it all summer, how WWE is moving to Fox, but for me, it's the perfect partnership, entertainment and sports, and in my opinion, no one does sports and entertainment better than WWE. And then myself talking about the women's evolution and bringing that to Friday nights and the change that we've made in the company, hoping that that transitions to different industries. It's so exciting, and I am honored to be here.
All right, so during the 20th anniversary celebration on Fox, you and Becky Lynch are teaming up against Bayley and Sasha Banks.
I mean, if we can get along.
Right. Well, so that is going to be the question. Okay. So I think you guys, if we were going to put odds on it, you guys would be the favorites if you can get along. Do you think you and the wrestler known as the Man are going to be able to do it? How do you see that going?
100%. But what's so cool about Friday is the four of us started together, and to know that over the last 6 years, we've built this incredible legacy for the women with all the women from the past and the present, and we're debuting on Fox. It's huge.
So this summer, you made history. You headlined the first ever main event at WrestleMania. We talked about, because we've had a couple of the headliners in WWE there. Yes. We've talked about the evolution of women. What do you think about your role? Because I grew up with your dad being one of my heroes. I mean, he was...
Charlotte's dad?
Yeah,
no, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I mess with him all the time.
No, and the thing about it is, my son, he's a professional football player. Yeah. My daughter, she works in pro sports, so I do understand. But what do you personally feel as far as this women's division being created and you being a huge part of that?
So I think for me, when I first started, the biggest message was I was known for my talent. I wasn't known for my looks. I was known for my size, my athleticism, what I could do in the ring. And when you watched me, in my opinion, you weren't watching a woman, it was a male or female. And that to me is what made me stand out in the beginning was I'm the best athlete in WWE.
Well, that's what I was, to jump in real quick, you were watching a great athlete. And that was, we talked to Stephanie McMahon about this, is the rebranding, removing the Divas title, removing, because there was at one point in time, there was an unquestioned sexual component to the way they presented female wrestlers.
Well, we were secondary storylines.
Right. It was all
eye candy.
Absolutely. Yeah. And now you guys headline main events. You do backflips off the top turnbuckle. And I'll say this, you said Charlotte's dad. Listen, Ric Flair's one of the all-time greats. You're a much better athlete than your dad ever was. Your dad's a great... Come on.
My dad's the best, but don't get me wrong. But it's the fact that the women were given an opportunity. And we took that opportunity and we over-delivered time and time again. And because of the audience, the company listened. So they gave us, that chance. But, the women now just want to go... We're just not divas. We're superstars. And there was nothing wrong to me with being a diva, because I was like, okay, I can be this, athlete, strong, confident woman and be a diva. But it was just more, okay, hey, we're putting more focus on the women, so they rebranded the title. And when I won that title at WrestleMania 32, I've never felt more accomplished in my entire life, because it was a message to everyone saying, no, the women can main event, the women can take over, and the women can run this company that's a male-dominated world, and it's not male-dominated
Do you feel a personal responsibility because your athleticism, because with this big event, as far as how many young ladies out there will get an opportunity after seeing you?
Absolutely. It's just more saying that you can do anything you set your mind to, and the ones who have when I used to say I'm going to main event WrestleMania, people would say you're crazy. Like, I'm crazy? Oh, no, you're full of yourself. I'm not full of myself. No, I'm going to main event WrestleMania. So the message is the ones who have these dreams that people are scared to say, or they're like, oh, I'm a little embarrassed to say that, are the ones that make these incredible opportunities happen.
Why do you think, Charlotte, WWE has such a broad appeal, that there's this new generation of fans that are now coming on board and they find that it's so relatable? Why do you think that is?
It's family friendly, and our most important role is to put smiles on people's faces. And when you come to the show, there is something for everyone. For the grandmother that's 77, for the child that's 7 years old. I mean, it's just all entertainment plus sports. And what makes us so special moving to Fox is we control the cliffhanger. We control that last touchdown. We control, whether that team's winning or that team's losing and whether we're going to make you happy or sad. And that's what we do best.
Well, after the 20th anniversary edition this Friday, the following Friday, there's a draft. And I'm rooting for you to get drafted by the SmackDown side. I know either side's great.
Yeah.
You'll be happy either one, but we hope Fox gets you on the SmackDown side.
Fingers crossed.
Charlotte, thank you so much. Much
Thank you.
appreciated.
Thank you.
We'll be
Thank
watching
you.
Good luck to
SmackDown
you.
Friday night on Fox. Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.